Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Evening, everyone. First item on the agenda is considering a proclamation recognizing our Public Works employees. Bill?
So I know, Council, you know, and most of this audience knows how good our Public Works Department is. We have about 20 individuals in our Public Works Department that takes care of the township behind the scenes. When we're sleeping in the wintertime, they're out salting and plowing the roads. They also pave the roads. We're one of the few townships left that have a Public Works Department that actually paves roads. They do all sorts of work: carpentry work, concrete work, plumbing work, electrical work, you name it. There's not an event that goes on in Horsham Township, usually at the township and also the school district, without some Public Works help behind the scenes. So they're always behind the scenes. They're never usually in pictures. They're never usually publicized that well. But I can tell you, we cannot have the events that we do in Horsham, and we cannot have the park system, the trail system, the road system that we do without Public Works. I don't think I know we have the best Public Works team out there. And our Director of Public Works, John Wallach, is with us this evening. So we thank John and his team for all the work that they do behind the scenes quietly, not looking for recognition, but we like to recognize them all the time, but especially this week, which is Public Works Week.
Awesome. So we do have a proclamation that reads as follows. Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, emergency management, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, quality of life, and well-being of the people of Horsham Township. These infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government, and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. It is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and the children of Horsham Township to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of Public Works and the Public Works programs in the community. The year 2023 marks the 63rd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. So be it resolved that we at Horsham Township Council proclaim National Public Works Week May 21st to the 27th, 2023 in Horsham, Pennsylvania. During this week, we urge our residents to recognize the contributions which Public Works officials make every day to our health, safety, and comfort and quality of life. Very good. Congratulations.
Thanks, John. John, if you could just hang out to the next agenda item and then we'll do pictures. Thanks.
Next, we're swearing in a new police officer.
So we do have the privilege to this evening to swear in the next Horsham Township police officer, Joe Harwath. Hopefully I got your name right. There you are back there. So Joe is a Happel Horsham grad, so we're proud of that. Lives in the township currently. And Joe knows he goes through a pretty rigorous interview process. And I am one of the ones that are the final interview with the final candidates. And I paint a picture for those officers of the expectation and the reputation of our police department. So he knows he has big shoes to fill and joins the best police department around. Our officers do a great job. And Joe's going to join that team. And he has an expectation that he has to live up to and fill the shoes and protect our quality of life here in Horsham. Our police department also does a fantastic job. Our residents back the police, our businesses back the police. We want them to be a productive police department, and we want our quality of life here. We want them to protect our neighborhoods, protect our businesses where we work, protect our schools, our churches, And they do that. They do that fine every single day. And they do it professionally. And our officers are trained above and beyond what our state and federal requirements are. So our command staff and our previous command staffs, they know the issues, they know where training is needed, and we go above and beyond with that training here in Horsham. So Joe's about to join the best police department, and we wish him well.
Who was swearing in? Chief?
All right, thank you. Mr. Walker, you spoke of the support that we get from the residents and the businesses, but you conveniently left out yourself and our elected officials. So before I introduce you to Joe, I just want to thank you all again for your commitment to keeping our police department fully staffed. My fellow chiefs, I've heard some horror stories, departments that are 5, 10 officers short. They've been that way for years. I know when I look at you folks, you wouldn't let us go 10 minutes short if you had the control over that. So again, I appreciate that. Joe, would you mind coming up here for a minute? I'll tell you all about Joe, or Mr. Walker did most of it. But so as it was mentioned, Joe Horwath is a Horsham guy. He went to Happer Horsham High School, and then he went to Westchester University and earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and then shortly thereafter enrolled in the Montgomery County Police Academy all by himself, and is a successful graduate of the academy. He likes long walks in the park. He told me to make sure I mentioned that. But we're really excited. So Joe comes from a construction background, although when you talk to the people that are close to him, he's wanted to be a police officer for quite some time. He was all in on Horsham. And what I mean by that is he only wanted to be a cop. And stop me if I'm saying something that's not true. That's correct. He only wanted to be a cop if he could be a cop here. And so that definitely means something. So if the Honorable Judge Paul Leo would come up, he will do the honors. And who are you going to have hold the Bible, my friend?
My mother.
Mom.
There we go. Excuse my back, I apologize. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand, and you'll repeat after me. I
I,
Your full name.
Joseph Horwath,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
I will support,
obey,
obey,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
that I will enforce the laws of the Commonwealth
that I will enforce the laws of the Commonwealth
and of Horsham Township,
and of Horsham Township,
that I take this obligation freely,
and I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose
or purpose
of evasion,
of evasion,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of police officer
of police officer
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I do further swear
I do further swear
that I will uphold,
I will uphold,
obey, and
Obey.
enforce
and enforce
the law
the law
without consideration
without consideration
to a person's race,
to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. We got a good guy here. Very good. I think just by a show of hands, I think I taught every one of these people in the police academy. As I did him. Good man. He's a good group.
So as tradition has it, we're going to invite somebody up here to pin the badge on you, and I think you selected someone for that.
Yes, my father.
Your turn. I hope someone gave you the badge. What's that? We give you the badge. Maybe draw blood and test for me.
I was a little age here,
So does that.
Yeah, that.
I need
Still
hope.
knowing this.
do with a concrete trowel. Pins, yeah, I don't see a hole. I don't see a hole. I don't. I have glasses on, right? There you go, there you go, there you go. I'm not even trying to get his thing on. All right.
Chief? Joe, we welcome you to the Horsham Township Police Department. We're both honored and I'm just very happy to have you here as a homegrown Horshamite.
Thank you.
So welcome aboard, and you're joining a really good crew. A great crew, sorry.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Pictures. Now it's picture time. Who's first?
Yeah. Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yes.
That's okay.
Okey dokey. Next is opportunity for questions or comments from the public. Anybody? All right, without being any, I'm going to skip back a little bit. We need a motion for that Public Works proclamation. Do we have a motion?
I move to the proclamation recognizing our Public Works employees and proclaiming May 21st to May 27th, 2023, Public Works Week in Horsham Township, Pennsylvania.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Approval list of checks?
This is, before you make the motion, Mr. President, this is also to announce in your list of checks this evening is the first round of checks for the Hurricane Ida relief funding. It includes 74 residential properties totaling $220,472.50. So the average property owner is getting $3,000 back, but there's a vast majority that are getting the maximum amount of $3,500. We still have a lot to go through. We still have some in round one to go through. So we have round one we haven't finished, we have round two, and we have round three applications. So we're working through them. But Dennis Haggerty sitting to my right and Sue Zepp, our Director of Finance, have worked many hours. This is extremely time consuming to try to get some money back in the residents' hands that was not covered by insurance for the damage and expenses they incurred from the tornado back in September of 2021 now. So Dennis and Sue have done a fantastic job. The residents have done a fantastic job being patient with Dennis as he requests more information from them. But we have our first checks this evening are to 74 property owners.
Want to add anything to that, Dennis? Everything good? All right, do we have a motion then?
I move to ratify a check from the Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $1,500,000 and further move to authorize payment as same. I also move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $507,624.42 and further move to authorize payment as same.
Second.
Yes, been moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we have 2, 4, 6 zoning hearing board applications.
Yeah, you have, out of the 6, 5 are residential, 1 is commercial. Your first one is 310 Willowbrook. You actually saw this last month. At that time, you were neutral. They did change their plan. It's a swimming pool project. It involves impervious coverage. So currently, in that zoning district in 310 Willowbrook, they're allowed 20%. Existing, they have 21.9%. And if they do their revised plan, they go to 25%. Last month, the plan that was presented in front of you was 23%. So they would be at 25% impervious coverage with the existing plan that they have now.
Applications?
a staff recommendation would be opposed unless they reduce some of existing impervious, reduce their plan with impervious, or they do some type of stormwater control that to the township engineer's satisfaction.
Have you been trying to work with these folks to get that to happen, or
We have,
no luck?
not yet.
Okay. Then I-
Did you say they came and the plan they showed us changed when it went to zoning and was even more coverage?
Yes.
All right, so I think that we would probably need to oppose this plan until they come back with something more reasonable. Everybody okay with that?
By letter, Mr. President?
My letter is, I think is good for now.
Would there be a condition unless there is stormwater management?
I think it needs to revert back to the original plan that we went neutral on.
That would be 23%.
Correct. That makes sense?
So opposed unless they redraft to 23%?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Next, 416 Privet Road.
416 Privet Road is also a residential zoning application. They are in the industrial zoning, and so their home is a non-conforming residential property in industrial zoning. If you're all familiar with our industrial zoning, the setbacks are huge. 100 feet, 200 feet for rear yard setback, side yard setback. So these homes were there prior to them being zoned by the township industrial. So they are, as I said, non-conforming, and they would like to put they're very small homes on Privet Road. They would like to put an addition on, and that's really that's the relief they need is the rear yard setback. They would still have a 62-foot rear yard with the proposed addition, but they do truly have a true hardship, so the staff's recommendation is neutral.
Good with that? Okay. Next is 107 Lakeside.
This is your commercial one, and they are here this evening, Workspace and their attorneys here, so they can come up. If Zachary and you guys want to come up to the front table. This is the new the patio at Horsham, at Lakeside, and Prudential. We'll give it a little plug. They did give a video. I don't know if my audio is going to work. My what? Your USB. Yeah. So you won't get an audio, but we'll show you this quick video that they gave since they gave it to us. So they were allowed to open as part of their legal agreement that we made with them last in April. Part of their agreement was to get the necessary variances that they need to be in operation, so their attorney Zach can present their application.
Good evening. My name is Zach Sivertson. I'm from the law firm of Eastburn and Gray. As Mr. Walker just stated, we already had entered into an agreement with the board back in, I think, April, in which you guys had allowed us to to open prior to obtaining the zoning relief that we're seeking now. All of the zoning relief that we're requesting is basically related to the fact that the outdoor dining and outdoor dining area requirement in the zoning ordinance is drafted in such a way that it's usually associated with a restaurant or some other indoor space. So the variances that we're looking for, it's to allow for this type of space without necessarily being associated with an indoor dining. Like one of the requirements is that you have to, the maximum square footage is related to 50% of the interior space. Obviously, without an interior space, there's nothing to really measure that against. So it's really those types of requirements that we're looking for relief from. And then there was one requirement related to, we want to use large boulders instead of bollards as a traffic safety measure. I think that the boulders are probably a more stable item to put in front of the where vehicles might be going. So that's one of the other variances that we're looking for.
Why don't we just go down the list to be
Okay.
easier, yeah.
The first variance would be from section 230-5, which is the definition for outdoor dining area. Again, that definition is written to specifically be associated with a restaurant, coffee shop, or other food service establishment. You have to be adjoining and accessory. Obviously, the principal main use of the area is for outdoor dining area. The next variance is from section 230.
Hang on a second, that's one, right?
That's one, yes.
Your staff recommendation on that one, I think, was okay, right? Everybody okay with that one? Okay. Move on.
Okay. The next variance is from section 230-16E. And there are three different subsections that we're looking for relief from. Subsection A is to permit a bar as part of an outdoor dining area, where this is not a type of outdoor furniture that's permitted. Essentially, this is for the actual bar structure. Right now, the ordinance reads that, you're allowed tables, chairs, things like that, but it's not specifically allowing for the bar structure that we're putting up. All right, the second subsection is from subsection C, which is related to using the large boulders instead of the bollards that are normally required for vehicle safety.
Go with that one?
Subsection F is related to to permit an outdoor dining area that is not 50% of the indoor dining area. So that's just, we're not associated with an indoor dining area at this point in time. I know that, I think that the intention is to eventually have an indoor dining area, but at this point, that's not there, so we're looking for relief from that requirement. And then finally, the last one is from section 230-258C, which is to permit an outdoor dining area accessory use to be established as a principal use. Essentially, the ordinance allows this use in that district, on this property, but it allows it as an accessory use. So in this situation, we're asking for it to be the principal primary use of the property instead of an accessory use.
Okay. Seems like you're good with everything.
Okay.
Right, thanks. We hope to see you there soon.
Mary,
Yes.
Mary.
Thank you.
Mary, I know it's an agreement. Can we attach the agreement can we attach?
Sure, I can include that in a letter to the zoning hearing board, asking that the agreement be attached to any grant of relief so that it's enforceable as a zoning ordinance provision. Is that what you were
Yes,
asking?
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okey doke. 101 Sourwood.
The 101 Sourwood is another swimming pool project, lots of swimming pools this year. So that's in our R4 zoning district. They are allowed 25% impervious coverage. They are currently at 28.5%. If they've submitted an application that would take their impervious coverage to 35.7%.
Talk to them at all about doing anything to reduce the
We did.
bid? And?
They're-
Obviously, they're-
They did not revise their application.
So I guess we're going to oppose that one too then. Everybody okay with that? Mary, same thing, letter? All right, 441 Cloverley.
441 Cloverly Lane, that's in our R3 zoning district, and they are allowed 20%. Existing is 22.5%, and they have already constructed a patio without a permit, that takes their property up to 25% impervious coverage.
Where are they at now?
22.5.
What are they allowed?
They're allowed 20.
Is the 22.5 before the unpermitted patio?
Yes.
So with the patio that's already there, they're already at 25?
They're at 25.
What's your recommendation on this one?
Again, same as the others, to be opposed unless they can find something existing to reduce, take out a section of the new patio, or it's not that far off, so they could do a stormwater control and leave everything in place, I believe.
That been mentioned to them,
Yes.
and they didn't do it.
No.
Okay, opposed it is. All they got to do is ask. Okay, 100 Sourwood.
100 Sourwood, which is your last one. They too are in the R4 zoning district. They're allowed 25%. They're currently at 29% with a zoning hearing board decision in order back in 2014 that they were required, and they did install stormwater control on their property. So what they want to do now would take them to 30.6, which would be 1.6% over where they're at today. But because of the stormwater control that they installed back in 2014, staff's recommendation is neutral because that 1.6% can take care of and handle the additional impervious coverage, the stormwater control features that they've added to their property.
They agreed to add stormwater features back in
2014, yes.
the smart thing to do. Okay, so we'll be okay with that one, everybody? Okay. All right, that's all the zoning hearing board applications. Next is consider the resolution revising our Act 537 sewage facilities plan.
This is the project that's ongoing on Herman Road between Downey Drive and Norristown Road that our Water and Sewer Authority is doing, and it's providing public sewer to people that have private systems which are failing along Herman Road. You had approved a resolution back in January, but the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection came back with some more review comments and asked us to update the resolution, which is in front of you this evening, allowing for these 10 properties to be connected to public sewer.
Good motion.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, revising the Township's Act 537 sewage facilities plan to provide service to 10 existing properties on Herman Road.
Been moved in second. It's a roll call vote.
Mr. Chaudry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote? And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next, I guess we're doing this public hearing. All right, the next item on the agenda is a hearing on an ordinance which would revise the zoning ordinance to create a new use, the commercial transition community in the R3 zoning district. The commercial transition community, or CTC, provides an area of transition between the commercial uses in Maple Glen and the existing residential uses surrounding the village. The ordinance requires that the developer of a CTC include a community improvement such as a traffic signal improvement, a regional stormwater improvement, or a major recreational improvement. A CTC may include townhouses and must include a 30-foot wide perimeter buffer where the CTC abuts the land zoned residentially or land improved with single-family dwellings. The ordinance provides that except in areas with significant environmental resources, the buffer must include a berm and a dense vegetation. This hearing has been advertised as required by law. There is no stenographer present, but please remember not to speak until you are recognized by counsel. When you are recognized, please provide your name and address for the minutes. This hearing is your opportunity to learn about the ordinance and let counsel know if you have an opinion on the proposed ordinance. Council intends to let everyone have a chance to speak if they want to, so please be courteous to your neighbors, keep your remarks succinct. We will give you the time. This ordinance amendment was proposed by a developer who was present this evening with their team and represented by Christian Pianzio. Attorney Pianzio, would you like to introduce the project and the ordinance?
Yes, good evening. It's nice to see you. The first time we were here at a public meeting was June of last year, where we first introduced this concept of this transition from the commercial to single-family detached dwellings in your township. I have with me in the second row, that's my team, Bruce Goodman on the end. Eric Ostomchuk is our traffic engineer with Traffic Planning and Design. Tim Woodrow, civil engineer with Woodrow and Associates. Sal Payone, Dominic Payone, and Sam Payone of Payone Builders. If we could turn to the next slide. We were here in June. We heard a lot of comments from the public, a lot of comments from council. We came back in November, changed the plan a bit, and then came back earlier this year asking you to authorize the ordinance, which has been drafted, redrafted. I will, sir. When I get to that point, I certainly will. Last month, or earlier this month, we appeared in front of the Township Planning Commission. They reviewed the draft ordinance, recommended that council consider it and adopt it. So we want to show you where we've been, where we are today, the changes that we were able to make to address the concerns that you had. Before we came to council, Sal and Bruce sent an invitation to the neighbors surrounding this property. They had an informal meet and greet to show them the plans and the proposal, got feedback from them as well before we even stepped foot into this room. So those comments and that dialogue has been nonstop for over a year, and we think we're at a point now where we have an ordinance that you can consider, knowing that this is the first step in the process. As council knows, if you were to adopt this ordinance, it would permit the use on the property subject to the parameters that are built in. Thereafter, that's when Tim's office gets involved and does the full civil engineering. That will deal with things like stormwater management, lighting, landscaping, ingress and egress, parking, the real movement of the earth, the reforestation that everyone's really looking forward to on this property. As you know, the tornado did significant damage, and we would like to get started on that reforestation as soon as possible, and that comes with this development. So a lot of Planning Commission wanted to talk a lot about emergency ingress and egress, the details, how do school buses come in and out. They're all very important land development issues, so we expect to dive into all of that. That'll all be subject to review by all of your consultants, the county, your Planning Commission, and then back here in council. A very public process, but one that we're not doing tonight. Here we're just talking about the ordinance that will get us started so that we can begin that very detailed process of land development. So what's on the screen in front of you is the subject property. Along the bottom of the screen here, this is Norristown Road. This is Welsh Road here. This is your commercial development along the frontage of Welsh Road. This is one side of the triangle, as we call it. You have Key Bank on the corner, and then the retail development down to the CVS. The triangle is in here, and our property is just one back from that commercial development. Montgomery County put together a committee called Monco 2040, and as we described the first time we were here, one of the recommendations in that county-wide planning document was transition uses from commercial to single-family detached dwellings. So this is all single-family detached dwellings back here. Here's your commercial, and they recommended a transitional residential use, a higher density, multifamily type use. In our case, we're talking about townhouses. Next slide, please. So the Payone family has been building for decades in Montgomery County. Sal brought by these renderings. This is a product that they have built numerous times in Montgomery County. This is the view from Norristown Road as you would approach our entrance drive. We're talking about significant architectural features on these townhouse products. People ask, what's the price point? I talked to Sal today and said, what do you think? And, about the mid-sixes is a comfortable place. Interest rates and market conditions will affect that up or down, but we think that that's a good starting point. Next slide, please. So this is the view from Norristown Road. There is a 50-foot front yard setback from Norristown Road in which we plan dense landscaping and hardscaping so that there is a streetscape from Norristown Road that is just beautiful. It's set back a little bit so you can appreciate it without cars being parked along the frontage. So when we were here, major concerns, traffic. That's what everyone wanted to talk about. We know council wanted to see a designated left turn in along Norristown Road. You wanted us to add an emergency access to the property, scatter the guest parking as we could. And then one of the significant improvements that are required by this proposed ordinance are the road improvements that we are proposing at the intersection of Norristown and Welsh. As you know, PennDOT has been working on a package for all three intersections that make the triangle. PennDOT is slow. We've been talking about it for decades, and we can do our part on our side of the street. Even though it's off-site, we are going to do our contribution towards an existing condition that we are barely contributing to, but going above and beyond so that you can say what's in it for Horsham, and it's this leg approach that we'll talk about. It hasn't changed for anybody who's been here at the past meetings. Next slide, please. So this is the plan. Now, as I said, it has not been fully engineered, but this respects the zoning requirements that are contained in the proposed ordinance. The property is about 14.85 acres. We have over 10 acres of environmentally sensitive area that we are protecting in this dark green area. There are proposed 53 townhouses. We're respecting the setback along the frontage. Those are the views that you saw. There's a 30-foot perimeter around the edges. The ordinance requires that that perimeter be densely planted and restricted from any use. We have sidewalks throughout the community inside. We did propose this trail. We had a connection out to Misty Hollow, but the overall reaction from the Misty Hollow residents was don't connect it there. One of the comments at the Planning Commission from a neighbor back there was moving it away from this shared property line, and that's certainly something we could do during the land development process. But we wanted to show a pedestrian access to the commercial development. It leads you right at the CVS property. It's property that Bruce owns. The Planning Commission was interested in the details of that connection, what's on the receiving end, so that's also a land development issue that we can get into should we move forward. We were able to acquire additional land so that we didn't have just one singular cul-de-sac. We've now have a loop that goes around in the center. We're able to provide that emergency access here that's shown on the plan. Let's go to the next slide. In order to get the left turn in, and it's this approach here, to have this left in so that no one would be blocking this through movement, we met with the neighbors across the street. We were able to negotiate right-of-way along that street frontage, which is necessary to do that widening. It also necessitates the relocation of 4 utility poles. So not a small feat, but it's something that we've accomplished. We are able to get that designated left turn into the property. Next slide, please. One of the questions was, show us what the backup is. And of course, Eric is here to answer the whole team is here to answer any questions that anyone has. But this is just a snapshot of what goes on in the morning, AM peak. This yellow line shows the backup beyond the property frontage. It's kind of skewed up for a little bit there, but here's the driveway. This is our entrance right here. So today's condition, because that left turn doesn't have a lot of room and the right through is behind it, we have significant backup beyond the property. With the intersection improvements that we're proposing at this approach, which would be the right turn lane designated, a designated through, and a designated left, we are able to shorten that queue to before our entrance here. And that is a significant improvement to the intersection. Part and parcel with the physical road improvements, traffic planning and design would work on signal timing because all the lights will have to talk to each other. That's all through a PennDOT permit process that we're committed to achieving. In the PM, we have the same idea, the backup along the frontage beyond the entrance, and then you can see the queue is stopped a lot shorter. So this will function better. Again, it's an existing traffic condition. We're not going to solve everything. There's still going to be traffic problems at each of the 3 intersections, but we're doing our part to contribute to its resolution. So that sums up where we are. The ordinance requires all these things. It requires that front yard, the setback along Norristown Road, the buffer. We're also including a fence along the environmentally sensitive ground, all that was in dark green, so that all the residents know that this is, not a place where you are to traverse. You will have the ability to go through on the trail system, but it will be protected with the fence system. Again, we'll work that out during land development. And of course, there's no accessory playgrounds or play yards or sheds or pools. None of that is permitted in a townhouse development, and your ordinance makes sure of it. Lastly, I will say that the township planner, who was at the Planning Commission meeting, commended us for working with an ordinance as opposed to going to the zoning hearing board with the use variance. He felt having the conditions built right in the ordinance was protection for council, so that you're not relying upon the zoning hearing board or whomever else might propose or not propose conditions that would effectuate this design at the end of the day. So that's my summary. We are here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, at this time, I'm going to just open it up to the public. Anybody has any questions, I'd ask you to please come up to the microphone up here and state your name and address for the minutes, and then fire away. Nobody has a question? Everybody's happy?
They always come out when they're happy.
You got one ahead of you, but go ahead.
My name is Dave Robinson, and I live at 603 Misty Hollow Drive.
I don't think it's working, Dave.
Okay. Maybe I can get it.
I think maybe if you turn it and pull it. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
And I think you turned it off.
How's that?
There we go. Thank you. Dave Robinson, 603 Misty Hollow Drive. I live behind that pond, would be where my house is located in terms of this plan. A personal response to this ordinance. In 2021, when the tornado we've mentioned came through, our house was destroyed, and we were unable to live there for 15 months. When we returned, we learned about this. And so this was a second kind of trauma to us, because it was zoned R3, and we've understood that maybe 12 homes or so could have been built in that area. That might not be accurate. And instead now 55. And our view would be the pond and a street with many homes. So of course we don't like this. That's just, one property owner in the township. A perspective from living here 40 years in Horsham Township, and others here have lived that much or longer. From my perspective, Horsham Township was sort of a rural, suburban area 40 years ago. And it's become a very nicely developed township. And you've mentioned things, the infrastructure, the parks, the works department, the police department, our fire company. The township has really developed and matured as a suburb through the work of the council. And I feel now that it's getting to be a point where it's time to say, well done, and now less is more. As we keep putting in. I went up Limekiln Pike and drove through Regency, the development that's where the golf course was. And it looks like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes, which means a good 1,000 or more cars. And we keep adding and adding and adding. So I've just appealed to the council to start thinking, we're well developed, let's try to do less in terms of density going forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Franco DeAndre. I live at 709 Presidential Drive. And I wanted to speak here tonight in favor of what is being proposed. And I'd like to give you some good reasons to why I think it's something that the council should consider. First is, I was here at the last meeting and I wanted to listen to what all the neighbors had to say, what the applicants had to talk about. And I think that one of the biggest concerns everybody had and kept discussing was traffic. Obviously, we live there. We know that the traffic backs up every morning and every evening for rush hour. And if nothing happens to this property, this traffic situation is not going to improve. If we keep waiting for PennDOT to come in and do what they've been talking about doing at the Triangle, we probably won't be here by the time that happens. And that's the reality. So as we sit here, I look at it and say, how can we work together with private developers and improve the township in conjunction with what they're looking to do? And I think that this is a great opportunity to work with a developer and improve that intersection of Limekiln and Welsh Road, Norristown and Welsh Road, so that we can get benefit from it, and I think it would be well worth it from that standpoint. The other is, as many people drive that stretch, you may or may not realize it or really notice it, but when it rains heavy, that section of road is flat, and it does pond quite a bit on the opposite side of the street. I've done it. The road is so full of water, you drive to the center of the lane in order to pass through. If this is our opportunity to also create a better situation for safety for the cars passing through there, I think it's something that should be considered. And I'm sure as this would be going through land development and stormwater management and whatnot, that situation could probably be improved. And when a car is driving on Norristown Road, they can stay in their lane rather than moving over the center yellow line in order for them to make it through that section of the road. So for those reasons, I think it would be very favorable, and I think it's something that the township should consider in making this improvement to the township. Thank you.
I think it's okay. Thank you. I'm Irene Gowder. I live at 724 Norristown Road in Horsham. So this development is literally in my backyard. And my husband and I have, are very much in favor of this occurring. It was proposed, I guess Mr. Goodman bought that property back behind us several years ago. And I was a little apprehensive about all the scuttlebutt that was being said about what was going to be built there. I have been in front of this council. We've lived in the township for 47 years and our home. And we've seen so many changes to our township. And I have been in front of you against some of the things that I didn't feel were a good fit for Horsham. And I believe that this development is going to be a good thing for Horsham. Besides revenue, and there's going to be some traffic. I have seen increase in traffic for the last 40 years, and it somehow works. But since the hurricane and since the tornado, my backyard looks like a war zone. And I look out there and it makes me so sad to see those beautiful trees gone. I can now see all the way to CVS. And I didn't see that for the first 45 years that we've lived here. And looking at the aesthetics of this development, to be able to look out my yard and see the reforestation, to bring life, and that's what I mean by life, back into that land. Because if this development does not go through, then nothing is going to be built there. There's nobody going to pay $1 million for a home, as some of the other people have talked about, for single home butting up to a CVS, to Brick and Barrel, to have their backyard in that. So this transitioning from commercial to residential to my backyard, I think will be a good fit for Horsham. Thank you.
Only slightly taller, but not really. This is just a quick question. I think this was mentioned previously, and I think...
Name and address.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ellen Chunky, 513 Cyril Drive. I think it's on the rendering. Sidewalks, do they extend along the frontage of Norristown, and do they connect to existing sidewalks? And I don't know if this is a Q&A, so I can also step back and let that get addressed. Do we have sidewalks along the frontage?
Yeah, it can be answered.
Yeah. It is a land development issue, but Tim says we do have sidewalks along the frontage.
Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Jimmy DiMatteo, and I live at 699 Misty Hollow Drive, and I'm thinking that's Misty Hollow Drive right there? Am I correct? That turn? Yes. All right, so mine would be the pie shape. What I'm curious about is this green, this dark green, what really is going to be done with that exactly? And how far is it going to go? Is it going to go right to the property line? What kind of trees will be planted? Well, all that wood that's back there, because if you go on Google Earth and Google Earth this, you get quite a different picture than you did before the tornado. So what exactly is going to be done there?
So again, it's a land development issue, something that we'll work with staff. My clients have walked the property with township officials to identify what's dead, what's dying, what needs to be removed. So with the help of the township consultants, there will be an inventory back there and decisions made on how to clear out what needs to go and how to replant so we can kind of start a new ecosystem that is now desperately missing.
Will that go right back to that line that's going right down the white?
Well, it covers the entire property, so I'm certain that all the way to the edges will be considered.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Linda Goodwin, 663 Maple Glen Circle. You've discussed the traffic right there at the triangle on one spot of the triangle. You have Welsh Road and Lime Kiln, you have Norristown and Lime Kiln. You also have Norristown and Herman, Norristown and Whitmer, which are horrendous, just as bad. This is just going to add so much more traffic to those areas. I've gone there where people pull up and they just sit in the intersection because you can't get through the intersection because there's so many cars. So they sit in the intersection, you've got the green light, you go nowhere because they're all sitting there. Nothing's being addressed about that area, and you're just going to have 53 more houses with at least 2 cars per house, and they're going to be all going in that area as well. So, I mean, I think it has to be a bigger picture, but I also agree completely with Dave Robinson. My father went to Hapro. He would be 92 years old right now. He went to Hapro High. He had a farm at the end of Babylon. He lived with his father, my grandfather. And I agree, like years we've come back here all my life. And I do feel like, I think enough is enough. I think we need to keep some of this just as land and stop developing everything.
Yeah, hi. I'm Catherine Bedard. I'm at 660 Maple Glen Circle. Neighbors to Dave Robinson and Linda Goodwin. Again, I totally agree with what they just said. You have to look at the aggregate picture. If you're going to be developing across from the Giant and you're taking this development and you got all the new houses, the Regency on Lime Kiln, it's just, I think, just going to make a big, unfortunate mess. So, and I think the Giant, you have to look at, how much space do you have in the Giant parking lot if you add all these different developments together? So I just think life would be much more unpleasant here if we switch the zoning, which, I relied on, I did check the zoning when I bought the house. I checked the area zoning, and, you know, I didn't expect this, so, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, council. Anybody have any questions up here right now? Okay, so there's no other questions at this time. We'll close the hearing. Council's not going to vote on this evening, but we will be meeting later, when, Bill?
Well, go ahead,
It
Mayor.
requires 7 days advertisement, so if you want to do it on June 14th, we can get an ad in the paper prior to that for council's consideration on June 14th. That's as soon as we can get it advertised.
So that's what the plan of action is we're going to sit back, we're going to think about it, deliberate individually, not together. And consider the pluses, minuses. You know, there's always good and bad to every development, and we do have to weigh them out and see what's best for everybody. So we'll do that, and we will advertise for that meeting. If it's going to be on the agenda, everyone that is signed up will get a notification, Bill?
Yeah, we'll notify everyone that we've been notifying since this conceptual plan has been in front of you.
Okay. All right, so we'll close the hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Being said there's no other items on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.